So I showed you the wonderful, amazing Miss Timber and the Grodner lady, and now I have some other ladies I would like to show you as well. The tallest one in our group is a fascinating doll, not only for her beauty, her wonderful costume, her presentation, but a little bit of her story. The model was deposed by Nicolas Joliet in Paris in the 1867 time period, and we can actually attribute to him, even though there are no signatures of any kind, because of the very, very distinctive shaping of the neck. If you look at the bottom of the neck, it fits on top of the bisque shoulder plate in this very curvular kind of design in which the two really incorporate with each other. They were definitely meant to be together. And he's the only one who ever shows a design based on this in his mechanisms. It was very, very beautifully done. The doll is, well, I don't think I have ever seen another example of this doll with that. So evidently it was clearly not a successful, or there was, in 1867, that was a grand exhibition going on in Paris. He might have made it exclusive for that exhibition, but then why did he depose it? So we don't know. So many doll history stories are still clouded in a fog that we have to just keep researching and researching until we can find out the why and the when and who was it made for and where has it been. And this doll is a beautiful example of that. In the meantime, while you're doing that research, take a look at the doll itself. Now, I showed you the really rare example of her neck articulation, but look at the profile of the doll. Very, very stunning, very beautiful slope of the nose. Wonderfully detailed design of the lips and the very kind of plump cheeks, sort of a little tiny double chin, and beautiful, delicate complexion and pale blue eyes, and this stunning antique costume, once again, my favorite color, mauve, with match the little flowers in her hair. She is one of the prize of the auction and one of about 20 French fashion dolls that we do have featured in the auction. I think everyone's favorite of the French fashions is a doll commonly known as a Smiling Bru Poupée. It was deposed by Leon Casimir Bru, this facial model, in 1872, which was the exact year that the Empress Eugenie was deposed and fled to England, where she lived out the remainder of her life, which was actually pretty long. She flew in an airplane before she died. That's how much longer she lived. To me, fascinating little side story. At any rate, there are many people that believe that this is a portrait of her, and if so, it would probably have been done as an homage from Leon Casimir Bru to his then deposed empress, who was really beloved within the doll and fashion world. She also has the wooden articulated body that was deposed by Leon Casimir Bru, with the extra articulation at the swivel waist and the fine dowel jointing of the limbs. This one in particular, to my mind, has a very, very special face. It's just, those cobalt eyes just pop out at you. Beautifully, beautifully done example. And take a look at her wig. I think it's great. Now, we saw Miss Timber, the amazing Miss Timber, and we saw the Grodner wooden. And here's another wooden lady. Now, she has had some retouch and repainting a long time ago, but I personally think she is a stunning doll. I'm going to show, I want you to come in close and see her facial details, see her whole structure, and when I turn her around, again, you'll see more details of the side of her face, and look at the back of her hair. Is that a surprise? Look at that braid. Is that beautiful? This is an absolutely wonderful doll. In a grand costume. So if you were not in the market for one of the very, very fine, rare and mint condition wooden dolls that we're selling, the Miss Timber and her Grodner lady friend, this might be one you should consider, because believe me, once you take this home and put it on your shelf, every time you walk in that room, she is a stunning doll. I had a collection come in. These are not from Mary Lou Rubright's collection, but I had a collection come in from a collector in Seattle, Washington, who said, I acquired these dolls about 30 years ago when I was traveling in France, and I was in Versailles, and I came across a woman who was showing one of these in her shop, and we started talking, and she took me to her home where I saw the others, of which there are 15 in all. And there are these stunning wax fashion dolls that are clothed in costumes that are extraordinary, and I really want you to, wish you could all see them. Now the dolls themselves are poured wax, and they're on like an armature, a wrapped fabric armature body, and then on a metal base, let me show you, affixed to this metal framework, so they're standing already, and their costumes are affixed. Now this is a tradition. You know, we tend to think of dolls as being childhood playthings, but there's another category of dolls, and those were dolls that were made with costumes that were affixed to them. An example would be the Ice Capade dolls that were presented on the Madame Alexander dolls with their costumes that were replicas of the Ice Capade people. An example are the Neapolitan dolls that have their costumes affixed to them. And another example is this set of poured wax dolls with these authentic historic costumes. Each one of the dolls, not each one of them, a few of them don't have them, but most of them still have this paper tag on the back in old ink script. This one is Epoque Louis XVI, 1790. And actually, the ones that have them will say Epoque Louis XVI, and then they'll specify what year the fashion represented. So whoever designed these were trying to be so authentic, they were pinpointing the costumes right down to the ears. Now, who made these costumes and when? I conferred with Francois Timer, who was really helpful in this, and we agreed that they were probably made at the beginning of the 1900s, so not 1700s, even though that's what they represent, but the beginning of the 1900s. This was all during the period of what is commonly known as the Renaissance of the French doll. And this is when French society in general, but also costume people, doll people, historians, were trying to recreate to the French people this interest in their own legacy and their history. Remember, the Germans were taking over the doll industry, and the French wanted to resuscitate it and give people something to be proud of in their own. So a twofold thing happened. There's a society in France at the beginning of the 1900s that is called L'Étoile, the Star. And this was a group that would have various charitable events in order to raise money to help, as the time went on, to help the orphans and the wounded of World War I. And they would, so this, in the Leo Clarity book on Jouet de France, he writes about an exhibition that L'Étoile held in 1916 of wax ladies in historic costumes. And we think that that is what these dolls are from that particular exhibition of 1916, 1917, with a design not only to reinvigorate French people with an appreciation for their own culture, but also to raise funds to support all of the devastation of World War I. And so a twofold process. Now, I just want to show you some of them, and I'll kind of pick them up. I've been twirling them around as I'm talking, and I want to show them a little more. And I want not only the gowns to show, but the bonnets themselves and the wigs. The wigs are designed to accommodate the particular styles they represent. And there's so much detail that go into this. Every time you lift a little shawl or a little collar, you see something else on the dolls that are just so absolutely wonderful. Most of them represent costume from Louis XVI period. There's one that goes up, I believe it's this one, that is actually Napoleon III. Yes, this is Epoque Napoleon III, 1860 on its little paper that's written there. So you can see the style of dress, how it changed. And it actually has a little wire hoop that is holding the skirt out, whereas some of the others do not. This is not come loose. This is swirls of ribbon around the gown. And look at her hair. Check out her hair. Now, I think you might not want to own the whole collection of them, but if you collect French fashions or you like lady dolls of any type, to me, having one of these in your collection, choose the period you like, and having one of them is a really great adjunct to a collection of all of French fashion dolls. I love this gown. I think this one in particular is really quite beautiful. Little things like the flowers at the bodice, they did great details like that. The flounces at the back with the wonderful lace. This one has the wild hair. I just finished cataloging 2 months ago that wonderful collection of half dolls that we had. And when I came upon these, I thought, oh, they blend so well together because they had so many of the period of the half dolls. They represented ladies of the French court of the 17th century's French court, 18th century French court, and that's what these dolls are. They're just grand. Look at this one. Look at the front of that gown. Look at the corsage of flowers coming down. She's holding a little hanky in her hand, very, very dainty. Look at the top of her hair. And this is the Epoque Louis XVI. This is 1776. So we were declaring our independence from England, and they were walking around the French courts, as Benjamin Franklin well knew, in these fancy dresses. I think an elegant home could carry one of these beautifully. I think that'd be beautiful under a glass dome. So that is what I wanted to share with you about that. And then I have a few more dolls I want to show you. A collection that truly represents all aspects of childhood, all of the things that we're curious about childhood past, wonderful treasures. And I've shown you many of the classics and all, but this auction is so full of really unique and unusual things that I just picked a few at random to show you so you'll be interested. Now, on this side of the room, I'm showing you dolls in Scottish costumes, which has always kind of been fascinating to me because look, we have a French doll, we have a German doll, we have an English wax doll. Why did all of these different doll countries with their manufacturers have this fascination with Scottish costumes during this mid to late 1800s? Well, my theory is it all came out of Queen Victoria. She had gone there with her husband. She was very popular. She'd gone there first in 1844, and then she continued going back, and really kind of made it a very, very special place. So certainly the tall English wax doll could certainly say to be emblematic of Queen Victoria making her visits to Scotland at the time. And then we come around, and I'm showing you in the showcase two other really wonderful dolls in Scottish costumes. The little fellow, beautiful complexion, creamy and all. No, it's not bisque, it's paper mache. That's how perfect paper mache was when you can find an all original one, which he is. Not only the condition of the costume, which is superb, but his original complexion, painting on his complexion, glass eyes. He's a wonderful guy, even his little cap. And then on the other side of the case, we have a bisque doll with sculpted blonde hair, surely representing one of Queen Victoria's children, I'm sure, in their many visits to Scotland. Remember all of the interconnections of the German, English families at that time. And here he is wearing his factory original Scottish costume as well. And then in front, look at this, a French poupée. Imagine that, wearing a Scottish costume. The French were very fascinated with the whole Scottish theme, and you'll find if you start making it something you open your eyes to, you'll find many, many French poupées and bébés that are wearing original Scottish costumes. And by the way, those wonderful miniatures hanging on the wall, and the table with a little pug dog in front of it and the accessories, there are lots in this auction as well. So they're really, these little things add to make this wonderful, wonderful setting of your dolls. And then I wanted to show you this wax doll right here because I want to turn it around so you can see the little chubby rolls on her upper shoulder plate or chin, whichever you would call it. her fine rosy complexion, rose blushed complexion. And I just think she has, this is just me, but you know, there are wax dolls and then there are wax dolls. And I think this one has the most beautiful expression on her face. Very, very dreamy. And I just try to call your attention to it because sometimes collectors say, I won't even look at wax dolls. I don't look at them. Well, there are wax dolls and then there are wax dolls. And here's one that deserves your attention. And she has her completely original body with the poured wax lower limbs and her wonderful original costume as well. Take a look at this fellow. Who doesn't love a Burgerella? And how often do they show up? Very, very seldom, and never in this condition. With very, very distinctive facial modeling made in Italy about 1930. They were imported into the United States in very small numbers because they were expensive dolls, even in their time. Very, very luxury quality. We find very few of them today. Very distinctive original bodies as well. And I think this guy with his courtier costume is just outstanding. And then finally on this table showing you the doll by Nina L. Britten. She was a craftswoman in Tennessee, and she started making her Al Britten dolls, and this very distinctive look to them. And what is notable about her is we not only have the doll, but we have the original catalog from the company showing the doll, and inside showing many photographs, tipped-in photographs of various dolls, and then on the opposite page, the testimonials from various people as to the doll was beautiful. Let's see what this one says. We could not decide which of the dolls to take, and our baby was so in love with both, we just decided to take them both. Hey, I didn't do that deliberately. I think that's a great, I'm saying that's what you do when you go to an auction. You can't decide what to take, you just take them both. I love that woman. She's my kind of person. And then also included with the doll and the catalog are a whole series of newspaper articles that have been photocopied from originally done at the time. This one is from 1915 and talk about the story of a Clarksville woman's clever invention of a new doll. So you have a lot of background material here on your Al Britten doll. I think I've only ever handled one other one. Very, very rare to find. Another example of women trying to start an industry at the beginning of the 1900s, and some like Martha Chase and Ella Smith really succeeded to great extents, and others were smaller, more studio-oriented. And this is a rare example of one of those. And finally, to conclude the show, I saved one of my favorites for the end. I call this Fun in the Nursery, subtitle Hickory Dickory Dock, and see if you can figure out why. And here we go. We have the little boy in the back who's encouraging his little brother to ride the pony, even though he's afraid, waving his hands up and down. We have the girl at the teacher. She's playing teacher. They're playing school. She's waving her stick, and the globe is turning around as well, please notice. And the other children are raising their hands up and down, looking for attention. Seated on the other side of the room are 3 children playing at different games. And lastly, a little boy who's trying to draw their attention. Look at the clock, because hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. One more vigorous turn. And then folks, I hope to see you at the auction. If not, please enjoy the videos. I love to have your comments. If I've said something wrong, I might have a strong shoulders, let me know, and we will correct it. And I thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you next time.